I just want you guys to know that I finished my work assignment for the day, watched Kite Man, and then read through on this dress shirt for the finale. We started this series in the dress shirt. We finish in a dress shirt. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, Brent here back with Geek Variants. Cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, Kite Man's season one finale. Impossible Schemes. Hell yeah. And I gotta say, season one was fantastic. Look, this season one, I would put up there with Harley Quinn season one as far as spoof shows go. It did a fantastic job delivering on not only plot, world building, character development, and covering a lot of the initial material that was in fact there. Because look, if you told me before the start of this season that Kite Man was going to be one of my favorite shows this year, I would have to look at you like you're crazy. But lo and behold, here it is. The underrated, criminally underrated, I might add, gem that in fact it is. It's turned out to be one of the better spoofs, not only just of this year, but of many years past. Kite Man delivered in many, many ways as far as the dialogue was concerned, the wittiness was concerned, the action, the drama, the stakes. It lived up to it all, and especially when you have such incredible voice actors as they had for the season, who's to say it wasn't going to be a good season? But let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this finale and why I believe it was so good. We'll just kind of go over like things chronologically and go from there. Because this episode basically started off with Kite Man still with Golden Glider. They're on the run. He still has the briefcase. They're still trying to get plans together. And unfortunately, Kite Man is being taken out by trees left, right, and center. Just because Golden Glider's not flying high enough to not have him hit the trees. I don't know why that was a thing. I understand trying to fly low so you don't get seen, but again, you're already in the air. Villains are going to be able to find you one way or the other. And because of Kite Man's foolishness and using the power of Google to try and be like, hey, great ways to get rid of a world all consuming briefcase, Helen Villigan's able to find him, track him down, and be able to be like, look, I'm going to take the briefcase. I'm going to give you the kite back as a sign of good measure because we need to sit down and talk. Anytime someone as wise as Helen Villigan is trying to at least have this conversation with you, you should at least hear her out, try and figure out what kind of perspective she's going at. And she comes up with the math and she's like, look, I've run the simulation hundreds of thousands of times. No matter who takes the briefcase, the world ends with zero life. Everyone is long since dead and long since gone. There's nothing I can do about it. The only equation that seems to work for this anti life equation is Kite Man, which is astonishing to say that the entire fate of the DC universe was staked upon Kite Man having the ability and wherewithal to save us all. That does not sound like a promising objective at all, especially considering how much Kite Man is just your average guy who's super simple and for whatever reason has a very hateful relationship with olives. Don't know what that's about, but hey, Kite Man's shtick is Kite Man's shtick. And as Kite Man is kind of going through the throes of trying to figure out what to do with the briefcase, because I mean, you already attempted to nuke the briefcase in this series. I don't know what else you could necessarily do to get rid of it at that moment in time when the show was going on. Even I was scheming, like, how do you get rid of a world ending briefcase that seems to be impervious to anything man can throw at it? Meanwhile, Bane is trying to figure out how to go number two so he can flush, go find Goldilocks, and save her. Unfortunately, Goldilocks ran into Rebecca Chen, Golden Glider's mom, and she kind of spills out the whole anti-life equation, as she calls it, and spills the beans on what the ultimate plan is and like how it's the most powerful thing in all of existence. As the most powerful thing in existence, tends to perk Rebecca clean on up. She opens up her newspaper and sees that Darkseid, for whatever reason, was casting on Earth for part of his awesome choir that he's had following him around. And so you can kind of put two and two together that she's probably a member of the choir at some point in time that we see with Darkseid. Darkseid in this episode was an absolute gem. Him and Desaad's banter was fantastic. Darkseid continued to call Desaad a party pooper repeatedly. Every party needs a pooper, and if you don't know that pooper is you, Desaad. It's basically all Darkseid was saying over and over again, and for whatever reason, it works. Darkseid, in the spirit of vengeance, decided to go back to Brandon because the little chip that was supposed to be stuck in Malice's cat finally came out, even though it had a guarantee that it wouldn't. Darkseid decides to go take vengeance upon Brandon, who he then ends up hiring away from the PetSmart he was working at to come work for Darkseid on Apocalypse as part of his payment. Weird way of getting a new job, and honestly, I think he's probably better off you don't give your 2 weeks. I don't think you're going to be able to match the offer of working in Apocalypse for all of eternity. I don't think this terms and conditions strong enough to make that happen. And then as that goes on, it turns out Brandon is quite the potty mouth and decides to turn Darkseid's room into an NC-17 style mature room where he's just being crass as all get out and being very vulgar in front of Malice, who has decided to come back and kind of basically plead with Darkseid, like, please don't take out Golden Glider and Kite Man. I kind of grown semi fond of them. I'm going to try and at least be like, hey, I didn't lie to you, even though I kind of did. And by I did, I mean, I really, really did. At the same time, please don't kill them. I like them. Kind of pleads their case for him, and ultimately Darkseid's like, nah, I mean, you came by it honestly, and it's fine, but at the same time, I now know because of you that they're trying to play by exorcist rules, as in the exorcist rules of, the spirit goes into the priest then decides to end himself, therefore the spirit that was trapped within him is also gone by the same virtue. It's kind of a win-lose situation, so to speak, and ultimately they believe that Kite Man, by following the exorcist rules, would be able to end the anti-life equation, which is dark. And how many people volunteered out of his friend group to be the ones to make sure that he was no longer part of that universe? A little depressing. Even Bane was like, I'll help you explode. Bane, please don't do this. We're going down the wrong path. Ultimately, it led to a showdown between, Lex Luthor and his forces and the forces of Noonan's, just kind of going back and forth, having this insanely bizarre battle featuring people like Black Manta, Cheetah, amongst other villains working for Luthor, trying to go ahead and get the briefcase, ultimately ending in the weirdest of all shenanigans, where in the end, Rebecca Chen decided to appear out of the choir that was playing for Darkseid, steal the anti-life equation, and jump into the fairy tale book, and thus slowly kind of like fix the situation of what was going on, only for Martian Manhunter to cameo out of absolutely nowhere, take the fairy tale book, and abscond with it now with Rebecca Chen in it to go fly away and go handle business that is going on outside of this universe, and thus thwarting Darkseid, Lex Luthor, and Helen Villigan, amongst others. So, all in all, seems like a good day's done, except we get to look inside the book, and Rebecca has taken charge of the entirety of the book, taking out even the evil fairy godmother. So now we're left in a very, very bad state for when that will come back into play for season 2, which, if strongly alluded, will be happening. I, for one, am very excited to see that. I hope you guys are excited to see it as I am. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date on all things geek coming from Geek Variants, as we have a huge week coming up. My Hero Academia drops Saturday morning. And then next week, we have tons of great content coming from, first off, Marvel with Agatha All Along, Rings of Power from Amazon that same night. And then the next night, we will be having the Penguin episode premiere on a Thursday. A lot of great content coming for you, a lot of live streams. Be sure to join the chat and hang out with myself, Tony, and Will for a lot of great content. I'll see you then.